Welcome to Encounter, where we celebrate putting faith into action and community leaders who live out compassion, grace, and love. We're a program of the Broome County Council of Churches that addresses food insecurity through CHOW and the Greater Good Grocery, provides hospital and jail ministry, builds wheelchair ramps, and assists neighbors with transportation and shopping services through Faith in Action volunteers. We invite you to the conversation. Encounter your neighbors as we learn to walk together in love and kindness.
Good morning, welcome to Encounter. I'm your host today, Joe Sellepack. I'm the Executive Director at the Broome County Council of Churches. It's my privilege to interview and to be in relationship to pastors in our area. And we're going to talk with Corey Turnpenny today. She is the pastor at Church of the Wild. They meet mostly at Sky Lake, but sometimes online and other kinds of ways. And they just celebrated a birthday. You want to talk a little bit about your birthday celebration?
Yes.
Welcome to Encounter, by the way, Corey.
Thank you. Thanks. It's great to be here. Yes, Church in the Wild just celebrated our 3rd anniversary this past Sunday.
3 years.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe, right?
I know. In some ways it feels like a very long time, but it really has only just been those short 3 years.
And how has stuff evolved since then? Like, it must not be the same today as it was when you first started, right?
Yeah, definitely. It was interesting to sort of look back at those early worship services we held and how much has changed. You know, even just the bulletin is so different. But really thinking, you know, and what I spoke about on Sunday was about how this community started out as a seed planted in me, really, and how it has now gone out on its own. You know, it's separate from me, just sort of like a kid, you know, comes out into the world and grows and becomes more and more independent. That's how it feels, is that, you know, it was so much a part of who I was early on, and I was doing a lot to keep it going, but now we have so many people invested and taking care of our community together, and it's really just grown and become now its own beautiful thing.
And you want to talk a little bit about the purpose. What is the purpose of the Church of the Wild? What is it, the organizing principles, so to speak, that everybody bought into?
Sure. We are really passionate about connecting with and caring for creation, God's creation, and recognizing how many people feel a sense of God's presence out in nature, and really wanting to sort of capitalize on that and say, yes, we can feel a real presence of the Spirit here in these beautiful outdoor spaces. So let's gather there, and let's worship together, and let's answer the Genesis charge to be caretakers of this great gift.
And that's an interesting word, that caretaker aspect of it. Stewardship and caretaking kind of are different than what some people interpret Genesis 1 as saying. Yeah. Like, how does that inform what you do?
Yes, that is a huge part of what we're about. We also look to scriptures like in Job, where he says, listen to the animals,
right.
You know, ask the birds, they'll tell you what's going on. And to sort of remember our place, that yes, we are given this gift to be caretakers of it, and, you know, learning from indigenous cultures and their practices of really seeing humanity as, yes, the caretakers, but also just another creature in the web of life, and that we have things to learn from animals and plants who have been here on this great earth much longer than humanity has been. So we really look to creation to inspire us, inform us, and care, and we want to care for it as it cares for us, as it brings God's goodness into our lives.
And that's a lot different than when somebody says subdue and dominate, right?
Correct.
Because that seems to be one of the ways that we typically look at a tree and we think of its utility, or we think of what we can build from it, or how we can take the raw materials and make them into something different. But yet you're talking about a little bit different way of being human, right? So how does, do your members feel that? I mean, is that why people go to your church?
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many people have come and said, I didn't know there were other people who understood the world and faith in the similar ways as I do, here in Broome County. They are just so excited to find this sort of alternative space that feels welcoming and safe to kind of explore those ideas and ask those questions and say, gosh, we really could be doing things differently and better. And to me, that really connects with the gospel message too, of sort of flipping the way things are upside down. And the least shall be lifted up, and the mighty shall serve. And
have you read the book Braiding Sweetgrass?
Yes.
My daughter actually studied with her at ESF. Now that's a little bit of an impressive little book, but one of the things that I always liked about it was the way that Native cultures used the materials around them, but they did it in a sustainable way.
Right.
And there's a difference. There's a difference between that and just taking and like strip mining everything, right?
Right.
So it seems you're trying not necessarily to get away from get away from the idea of everything we do kind of hurts creation, to how do we become a part of it? Like what is the proper way for a human being to be in the world these days?
Right. Yeah, I really connect Dr. Robin Wall-Kimmerer's sharing of the indigenous honorable harvest principles about, don't take the first of something and leave some behind for others, and sort of have come about it like seeking permission to take and give thanks for what's been given to you, and really connecting that with the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus tells us, don't worry about what you're going to eat or drink or what you'll wear. God will take care of you. Like, everything we need is here provided for us. We know we have enough food in the world. We have enough resources. If we just shared them equitably, everyone would be okay. And we wouldn't have to, we wouldn't have fighting or wars or conflict. And so really looking at both the gospel and these indigenous teachings about how do we live responsibly on this land? How do we share God's abundance equitably with all creation, not just humans, but with all other created beings?
Now for folks that aren't aware of what your congregation does or how it worships, you don't have any walls, right?
Right.
So you want to tell people a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're out of the box. So we worship Sundays at 4 p.m., which is the first sort of different thing about us. The afternoon seems to be a really great time for folks, especially, if kids have sports and things in the morning. So we meet at a time that works for the people who we're trying to reach. And we meet out at Skylake Camp, preferably outside as much as we can. If it's raining, they have these big, beautiful porches we can sit on and be under cover. And we really try to be intentional about doing as Job instructed, and just sitting and listening to the sounds of creation, soaking up the fresh air that the trees are just freely giving us, and really feeling a sense of God's presence there in our midst. And, when it starts to get cold, we do move indoors, of course. Skylake is such a wonderful partner to us that welcomes us there, and we support them through service hours and giving back to their community and programs. So we are able to move indoors when it gets cold. That's usually the first question people ask. It's like, we're in New York. What do you do in the winter? Yes, we do go inside, and then January and February we will meet earlier in the afternoon and take a walk at the BU Nature Preserve, and then we'll have our time of worship on Zoom. So, as like an outdoor wild church, we are not opposed to technology. We want to use that tool in positive ways. And then we're able to sort of supplement, and it helps us match the pace of nature. So we do really slow down in the winter. And nobody wants to leave their house in January here in Broome County. So we say, stay home, let's meet on Zoom. And it gives us a chance to bring in really cool speakers from all over the country, and we have folks who look forward to our winter Zoom worship who join us from Belgium and Sweden and Ohio and California. Yeah, it's so cool that the community that has formed online too.
It's a tribute to to forward thinking, because if you think about how much involved in a church revolves around buildings. Mm-hmm. The energy tends to go right toward the bricks and mortar instead of it being delivered to the relationships that really matter, as far as developing relationships between members and making your relationship with the creation, your relationship with the world, the community around you. It gives you a chance to really find that to be the central purpose, instead of it being keeping the building up, right? Right.
Yeah, it does free up a lot of time and resources that we don't need to put into a building. And, it does help us feel more able to care for all of creation instead of focused on this one little plot of land that we don't really want to own property ever. We are very happy, really living into this. All land is God's land, and Jesus never owned property that we know of. So we're really trying to follow in those very basic practical ways. Follow that example.
I don't know if you've ever heard of Rich Mullins, but he had a song, "Man of No Reputation." Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite songs, where he talks about Jesus, and he says he didn't own property, he didn't even technically even own his own shirt. So when you're reading through Scripture, it's kind of like we think that everything revolves around ownership, right? So. It's hard for us to follow a homeless man named Jesus and think that we've got it up on him or something like that. I always found that to be a little bit weird. And then instead of Jesus looking like a first century Jewish person, he ends up going around with his business suit and a tie all the time. And I think that's kind of an odd thing that sometimes we fall into, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I say that as a middle-aged man with a suit and a tie on.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, but that's the paradox I find myself in all the time, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And there's only so much we can do individually in that respect of we got to have shelter, right? We got to have a job, and there's certain cultural standards, but together in this little sort of alternative community, we can experiment and do things differently and support one another in the ways that we're able to sort of go off our cultural script and follow Jesus.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to follow Jesus, I think, and I think that's part of what I like to say. Jesus doesn't fit conveniently in the box. He's like the Church of the Wild in some ways, where he says, I'm going to go where the Spirit moves, and then it brings us into different conversations at that point, right?
Yeah.
So my guest today is Corey Turnpenny, and we're talking about her church in the wild. And now we're going to turn a little bit toward a new project that they're kind of working on and that she's excited about. So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we have been focused on this idea of connecting with and caring for creation since the beginning, since 3 years ago when we got started. And I think we do a really great job connecting with creation. You know, we worship outdoors, we hold retreats and go for nature walks and stuff, and we're really learning from God's creation. And we wanted to step up the other side of that, of caring for creation. We would help out around with different organizations, Vines and Binghamton Food Rescue, and other folks doing great work in sustainability and caring for creation. But we wanted to try to have a bigger impact if we could. So we heard about the idea of these creative reuse centers that are popping up now all over the country. There's some in some places that have existed for 20 or more years, but they're really kind of becoming more of a sought after business in different places, with I think the rise of like thrifting and understanding that we have to reuse stuff. We need to live more sustainably and produce less materials. So a creative reuse center is a place where we will collect supplies, things that can be used in creative endeavors. So we really think people like artists and crafters, teachers, homeschoolers, scout leaders, all kinds of folks will be interested to come see what we have, and hopefully lots more people will be interested in donating some of the stuff that I think we all have laying around the house.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to me, that the Council of Churches has been involved with upcycling and food for a long period of time. So we've been since the 1980s been involved with food recovery and diverting it from landfills, which is exactly what you're looking at doing with this project. It's to keep creative things that could be used out of the landfill so that it doesn't get wasted in that way, and it also keeps the landfill from getting overused as well. So This is an awesome project. It's an amazing thing for a congregation to be involved in and take on as a ministry. So what are some of the materials that you're kind of looking to recover?
Yeah, I brought some props.
Oh, you did?
So this is something I hope most people have something like this in their homes. Sort of a bin full of those random things this was a honey jar.
Right.
But wow, that's a great jar. So I thought, I'm going to save this. I could probably use this for something someday. The same with these like little tins that had cocoa in them. But wow, they could be, they have a lid, they'll seal. That'd be good for something. And then there's like the random like scrapbooking paper I have left over, or, a half-used bottle of Mod Podge that I used for one project. And
what is Mod Podge?
It's like a glue that you can put over stuff to make it stick. And then I have this whole bag full of film canisters, right? This ancient relic of years gone by. But, they have this airtight seal, and what a great little container. And somebody's got to be able to do something with this stuff someday, like half a bottle of paint and just the random odds and ends that you have, jars and containers, or I must have done some project at some point
that
with
involves
stars. And so here they are, but all of this stuff was just sitting in a bin, waiting for me maybe to use it someday. But what we envision is a central location where everybody could bring their bin of random odds and ends And then more people, they might actually get used, right?
Right.
More people would have access to them. And maybe, I bet there's somebody out there who's like, oh, I could use that exact thing right now for something I'm working on. And that's exactly why we want this to exist. So people can find those things that they're looking for, not have to buy something new, and that these things can actually see a second life, can be put to use. It feels very much like a resurrection, right? Like we're taking what's considered trash mostly and giving it a new life in some way. And for me, after a while of things collecting like this, I do sort of get, I can't just keep all this clutter in my home. I got to get rid of it.
Right.
But this means we'll have a place for it to go instead of the landfill.
And it will get curated and organized. Is that the
Right.
idea?
Yes. So we'll have, organization, shelves, different things grouped together so people can come if they're looking for something specific. I don't know how many times my kids' teachers have sent a message like, we need toilet paper rolls or milk cartons or whatever. This could be a place for folks to share that they need something specific, and we could put the word out to our network and collect those items. But it also will be a place where people can come and kind of wander through and be inspired by what's there. Find something and be hit with that spark of creativity and inspiration to bring it new life.
Is one of the ideas that you've got about this a place for maybe aspiring artists to showcase what they've made from the recycled material too?
Yes. We would love to be able to do that, to feature artists that are using, recycled materials. And we would love to invite different artists and crafters to offer classes or workshops or, even just fun, crafting nights or birthday parties, a place where creativity is inspired and we can play and make mess and make mistakes, and it's okay, to just sort of let the creative spirit flow. And that's really where we see this connecting with us as a church, as a people of faith, is like there's something spiritual about creativity. And of course our passion for the environment and caring for creation. So it really checks a lot of boxes for us as a community, and I think for the wider community as well.
It would. And what are some of the things that people have made from these materials that you've seen? Like you said that these recycling or upcycling centers have been in operation, some of them for more than 20 years. Mm-hmm. So they must have some ideas as to what they've been making with these things. Oh, yes.
I am amazed at just the never-ending creativity of artists and creative folks, taking silverware and turning it into jewelry. And my favorite, of course, are mosaics, taking the broken pieces of pottery, ceramics, and turning them into some beautiful new creation and using all the little broken shards to make a new big picture. I mean, that's like the metaphorical stuff that pastors love, but it's also a really beautiful way to reuse something that is literally broken and would most likely get thrown out. So I think I'm most excited to have a big bin of broken ceramics and see what people can create from those broken pieces.
Yeah, that would be pretty profound. I mean, the idea that God takes broken things and creates something, that's kind of like the wounded healer, right? Or the, what's the Japanese vessel?
Kisuke,
where they do that kind of thing. That's gotta be pretty profound for you. A lot of theological insight comes from that, right?
Yes. All of the potential that exists in this idea, we're just so excited to see how it will get lived out.
And how is the church going to support this? Like what is it? how does the church interact with this?
Well, we are currently holding a startup fundraiser to help get us started. We will need, shelving and some tables, and we want to get a big sort of industrial scale so we can weigh all the materials that are donated and report, this is how many pounds we've saved from the landfill this month. And we're looking to partner with different local businesses, organizations. We don't yet have a space to start collecting donations, but I think we're close. I'm actually going right after this interview to see a space and hopefully work out the initial agreement to get started collecting materials. So we're really close. We're hoping to get some grant funding as well to help us, be able to have a dedicated staff person that can run the Creative Reuse Center, and we just know this will be a great resource for the community.
And some creative things will come from it that will really be beautiful and allow people to be able to see what God does with broken things too, right? This is awesome, and I want to help. I want to encourage you on that. And you have a 501c3 at the church too, right?
Correct.
Yes. So people can give you donations toward this project as well, right?
Absolutely. Yes. So on our website, it's just churchinthewild.org. There's a donate page. You can donate there, or find us, Church in the Wild, on Facebook and support our startup fundraiser there. Any amount of support, and certainly as soon as we're ready, we will put the word out and start accepting donations.
And when is the fundraiser for this? Do you have that date set?
It's going on right now.
Okay.
Our Facebook fundraiser is running for the startup for Creative Reuse.
And so if they look up Church on the Wild on Facebook, they'd be able to find it as well, right?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, my guest today is Corey Turnpenny, and we've been talking about her Church in the Wild, which is a passion that they had. They just celebrated their 3rd birthday, and they're doing an upcycling and recycling center that they're hoping will generate some creative reuse for things that would otherwise go into a landfill. Thank you for being on Encounter today and for talking about these important things with me. And for all of you, I hope that you have a great Sunday and that you would be kind and considerate to each other. Have a great day.